Hey everyone, welcome to the Executive Edge podcast. I'm Jemai Canley, founder of Potential Unleashed Consulting. I sit down with founders, executives, and high performers to unpack what really gives leaders their executive edge. In a world where everyone has access to the same tools and information, what actually separates the exceptional from the average? Hey, welcome into today's episode, everyone. I am super excited for today's conversation. I have someone who I greatly respect and also just have come to really appreciate on so many different levels from many conversations that we've had outside of podcasts, just in general about work and systems and culture and just leadership in general. And so it was a no-brainer to ask and invite Dr. Trina Peterson-Garcia to be on the show today. Dr. Trina, welcome and thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. Sentiments are definitely the same. I'm excited about all of the expertise that you bring, and to be in the same room with you is just the utmost honor. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, you all kind of get to come into our world because, again, Dr. Trina and I have some wonderful conversations, and we can start in one place and that conversation can go a bunch of different places just with us talking about the different things that we're experiencing in the world. But I want to start off by Dr. Trina just helping introduce you to the audience today. And so Dr. Trina is the founder and principal consultant of Growth Focused Consulting. And so, Dr. Trina, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you came into this work.
Yeah, thank you. As you said, I am the founder and the principal consultant, and I actually came in this work several years ago, but I teeter-tottered in it and I didn't do too much. And I would say back in 2015, I took on a little bit more of working with organizations and executives on pretty much it was more customized trainings. Like, how do I do that? I will tell people I feel like at that point people were working with me and partnering with me on a more reactive basis.
Mhm.
Something happened in the organization. We need to solve for it. I heard you're the person. Help me. And so that's where I really got like my footing in working with organizations. Like, okay, let me look at this harassment that happened. Let me look at how
Yeah.
your employees are feeling, unfortunately, and giving you solutions and recommendations. And then it kind of transitioned on, being more requested just by reputation. And so I work with, leaders, executives, organizations, and looking at their organizational structure, but also, how to blend and do cultural transformation, what makes sense. Really started leaning into this from my own experience of witnessing and being involved in, most people refer to them as toxic workplaces. I would say unhealthy
Yeah.
workplaces. There were some things that needed to be shifted, and working with leaders who practiced the art of silence and did not want to do what was right because it was more on self-preservation. So working with me and being in my space, you get the privilege of having someone who's going to come in and challenge the status quo and help you get to the next level where you're being more impactful there, than actually just showing up. People feel the impact and the culture resonates with that.
Thank you. And again, folks, you can see why she is here today. And gosh, honestly, Dr. Trina, even in just that, I've got several things that I want to dive into. So
All right, all right,
I'm
let's
trying
go.
to figure out where to go first, right?
There we go.
But I
Yeah.
think I want to go here first, and I'm just going to mention one of the things I want to come back to,
Okay.
so I put it out there so I don't forget. But you talked about the silence. I want to come back to that in just a moment because, ooh, like let's unpack that. But
Yes.
I also want to mention, and because I think this is really unique, something that you bring to this space, which is you yourself have rose to executive level positions in multiple organizations. We won't go into naming all of those, but some
Yeah.
really large organizations. You also have a researcher and academic background on these topics. You're a practitioner and a consultant. So there's this really unique perspective that you bring to this. It's not, a lot of times you get people who are coming at this from just kind of one experience, right?
Mhm.
So they have been in it, so they have personal experience, or they're coming at it from just an academic perspective, right? They've read and studied about organizational development, which you and I know
Yes.
there's great stuff in that, but it doesn't always translate or apply to real life stuff, right? And
Absolutely.
all those other pieces. Some people, again, they've picked it up along the way because they've been in it, but they may not know how to transfer it to other people because they don't have some of the other background or the research behind that. And
Yeah.
now, again, you also serve as a coach and consultant for organizations. So not only have you done it yourself, not only have you researched about it, but you also have helped coach other people to success through this. So I want to name that because
Yes.
this is going to probably lead us into several different directions as we get into this conversation today. All right. With that said,
Yeah, absolutely.
we got to go back to the silence piece. Like, so come on, tell me more about the
Tell
silence.
you more. So you touched on a few things, and I just want to like double tap on that. So yes, as the principal founder, like the founder and the principal consultant, I also in my day to day serve as the director of human resources for an amazing non for profit. Where our mission really stands for the financial health for all, right? And I love that. I'm very passionate about that. But also as an adjunct, right? I am a professor, so working with emerging leaders. And what I've noticed, the why behind doing that work is leaders really get comfortable with
Mhm.
silence. And what do I mean by that? One of the things that I say is I challenge the status quo. And it sounds cliche for some, like, well, what do you mean you challenge the status quo? We all do. Well, no, we all don't. I mean, you've been in them tables, in around the table in rooms where something was said and everyone around knows it's inappropriate. Everyone knows that what just happened is a couple of things, right? Like it was bad behavior, it's not advancing the work, but what typically we see leaders do is they resort to silence. And they resort to silence for self preservation. Not necessarily all the time because they are in alignment or they agree with what was just said or what is happening, but they're thinking about how do I survive through this? Is
Yeah.
that a boat I want to rock? I've heard leaders say when I'm like, well, let's talk about that. That's not a sword I'm willing to die on.
Mhm.
And it's like,
Mhm.
well, what is the sword you're willing to die on? Because you are the voice of the people. They need your advocacy. They need for you to do what's right. That's what really influences and determines what a culture is and what is acceptable, right? Like people are like,
Yeah.
we have an amazing culture. Not if you're sitting in silence, not if you allowing bad behaviors to happen. Your culture, I hate to tell you, it's not amazing. you
Right.
know, um, your employees are watching what you do and what you tolerate. And so when I say the silence, I have been in positions, whether I was a consultant, I've seen it, but I've also been in a seat where I've experienced one, it could look twofold for me as an HR professional and partner. Maybe I'm on the other side of the conversation and I'm guiding people and I'm pushing them to do what's right. And they're like, "But this has never happened before." And I'm like, "You've never worked with me before." Right?
Yeah.
So I've experienced it like that, but I've also experienced it where leaders knowingly did something incorrect. And now, Jamal, don't for the world of me, I don't know. I think maybe getting to know me, they didn't realize this. It's me. I'm gonna speak up. You you're not gonna get away with mistreating me. And I've always said that I know that when you have a voice and you are not silent, it comes with consequences, right? Some people think
Absolutely.
consequences are negative, but it's how do you close your eyes at night? I recall, and to your point, we're not going to name organizations, but I recall being in two specific, distinct organizations, and I wrote about it in my dissertation where one, they knew what was happening was wrong, and when I voiced my opinion, they didn't want to have conversation about the wrong act. It was about the fact that I spoke up,
Yeah.
the conversation, and so that was one. And I knew my time was coming to an end, and it was time for me to remove myself. And there was another organization where the leaders were just blatantly having bad behavior, and when I spoke up, I was told that I wasn't speaking facts. And I said, "Oh, I'm speaking facts. You don't want to hear it." And the response was, "Don't tell me what I want to hear. We can just leave it." And I said, "No, that's inappropriate. We're not going to leave it." And I knew then, although everything they loved about me, being a truth teller, that was love when it wasn't against them,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I still knew I have to be the advocate no matter what the consequences are. I would tell my husband, We'll see what today and tomorrow brings. And he would laugh. But that was real. I'll end that thought with this statement. It got to the point of me challenging silence and being so comfortable with understanding my challenge of silence and pushing leaders to do what's right. I stopped unpacking things when I would go into the office. So people would hire me in and I would have an office or a desk. I would have an office or a desk and I would have a cup, my bag or purse, and I would have a charger. And that was it. I had no family photos, no nothing. And I'm not a rebel, right? I am not a
Right.
rebel, but I am definitely someone who advocates for the people and definitely advocate for myself. And I remember someone saying to me, it was a leader, make yourself at home. Where's your family pictures? Where's your things? And I said, no, this is how I come. I do an amazing job, but I am prepared. And in my mind, I know that there may be the moment that I say something and I challenge you where you may say your services are no longer needed, or I may say this no longer aligns with my values and it's time to go. And if that moment ever comes, I can pick up my bag,
Yeah.
grab my phone charger, and exit. And that's been my philosophy because I am more prideful on working at an organization that means what they say and is very respectful in what they're doing to people than being in a unhealthy or toxic. And so what I know is silence, when you challenge that, you're challenging people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
And that presents as a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. I want to, yeah, I mean, seriously, I want to go so many places off of that because I want to dive into if someone is struggling with speaking up,
Mhm.
because as you mentioned, silence is often easier. Like, where could they, what advice would you give them on how to actually start to build that voice? That's one place I want to go. Then you just said something else too, Dr. Trina, which you said, I want companies to be proud about what we're doing to people. And I thought that was unique because I believe in the intentionality of words. And I think it's also so important that companies, organizations recognize that we are always doing something to people, right? And here's what I mean by that. People, it's easier for people to say, oh, this is what we do for our employees. But can we also talk about what we do to our employees? And the reason why that resonated so much with me is because we often think about what we're doing to people has to always be something wrong or negative. But no, we're doing something to them all the time. The question is it something that we feel good about, right? Or something that we
Mhm.
don't feel good about?
Mhm.
So, I mean, gosh, I don't know which one of those places to go right now because I want to dive into both of like, what do we need to do to help people break out of silence? But then I'm also like, man, what do we do to help organizations understand that we are always doing something too?
Yeah.
Choice is yours.
Oh man, I mean, both of those are very powerful pathways to go down, right? Because I'm seeing so much of silence and the lack of advocacy at
Yeah.
the right level, or even self advocacy, and this shows up even in my research. I'm going to start with the path of silence. If you're finding yourself in silence, what to do?
Yes.
I think it's a moment of reflection, right? Because all responses don't necessarily need to be immediate, right? And you have
Mm,
to think through the audience. What is the message you actually want to get across, right? Because as human beings, we are programmed to react,
yes.
and sometimes reacting creates a scenario or the narration becomes more than is necessary for that particular circumstance. And so I say reflect. And there are times, right, like we talk about that bystander effect and all of
Yeah.
that. There are times you have to respond right away,
Yeah.
right? But you have to be skilled enough to know when are those times and when are the times for reflection. And even if you're uncertain, you can practice tools and techniques such as something is bothering me about that. I want to circle back to that. I don't have the conversation or the words at this moment. Because what does that do? That lets them know, it pauses them.
Yeah.
We're going to have a further conversation, and they know you're coming back. It may even equip them to say, no, let's talk about it now. What is it about it, right? So it opens up the door. If you are not in a space where you can have time to reflect and you need to react, have a couple of things come through your mind. What is the consequence? And am I in a position to accept that consequence, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that that's where the silence comes from. How do I professionally address what just happened? And it's no real repercussions. Somebody may get feelings may get hurt, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But when in the hindsight, I haven't done anything unprofessional. I haven't done anything quote unquote insubordinate, right?
Hmm.
But I still got my point across, and I'm advocating for myself. I had a supervisor who left such an impression on me earlier in my career, and she used to call me nice nasty. And when she first said it, Jamal, I didn't understand it, right?
Hmm.
And I did practice silence at first. And I would say it was probably, maybe a month in, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm like, why do you keep saying that about me? What is nice nasty? And she said, you are. That was her response. You are nice nasty. And I was like, that's not good enough,
Yeah.
because part of it is feeling insulting. Like, I need you to tell
Yeah.
me what you mean. And she said, you get people together in such a professional way that they have to pause and say, did she just read me? And she was like, but it's nothing you can say because you are so polished and poised and
Hmm.
professional. And what you said is accurate, it is rooted in facts. She was like, you tend to not speak unless you have something to back it up. And at that moment, I started wearing that title, Nice Nasty,
Yeah.
proudly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I knew that that meant something, right? And I knew that although I didn't want to be connected with anything deemed nasty,
Right.
I knew what she meant about standing up, speaking up, advocating, and making a leader step back and think, whoa, what just happened? Because that's what you need to do. So if you're struggling through silence and you're struggling, find out what is it going to cost you. And
Hmm.
if it's going to cost you something more, if you don't say something down the line. We talk about people who have PTSD. We
Yeah.
talk about people who have workplace trauma, and all of those things that they're sitting with. And so when they go to the next, think about interview questions. When people interview, the questions that they typically ask are resembling the experience they just left that they want to ensure they do not repeat.
Yes.
Interviews can tell you a lot about a
Yeah.
person's experience, right? Because they want to make sure, like, if you were bamboozled at the next job, you want to know how big is your transparency.
Yeah. I was gonna say you're gonna ask a question about transparency,
You
right?
want to ask that question about transparency, and so I think that silence, practice it. Ask yourself, get into a room by yourself, and you can start with family. You can start with, because if you are struggling with silence in the workplace, guess what we know? Research and experience speaks to that's not the only place you're struggling with silence.
Mm,
You may not be having those conversations in at home that you need to have.
yeah.
Someone is saying something that you're like, not a big deal. I don't want to rock the boat.
Yep.
I don't want this to turn into something bigger, so I'm gonna be quiet. So start practicing small techniques on how you feel, how to articulate that quickly, and how to make sure that it's not confrontational, but that it gets your point across. And then lastly, ask yourself, what is it about speaking up that makes me so uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And tackle that.
Yeah.
And if it's the I need this job, right? So, and I don't want to get on their bad side. Get yourself in a position where you don't need that job,
Mm, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because there will come a day that you are going to speak up. And I say that that's the trigger point. We all have been there when you say, that's what took them over the edge. That seems so small. Well, it wasn't just that, it was the
Right.
build up.
Yeah. Over and over. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Wow, Dr. Trina, thank you for that, and thank you for again giving those real tangible steps that people can take, because I recognize that that's not easy, and I will guarantee you that there is someone who is listening to this who is thinking, I see stuff right now, but it's safer to be silent, or I don't know how to approach this. I don't know how to speak up. And you hit on so many different things because some people have never learned how to respond. So they don't speak up. They stay in silence so that they don't react.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so,
Here's
like,
my philosophy, Jamal, on that. Not to, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt
no,
you.
no, please go ahead.
I've been saying this for years. It is my model. It's my personal model. It's something I teach my 11-year-old son, especially as a black young boy, right? Like young man that's navigating this this world,
Yeah.
this environment. And I say it to people that I coach and even my executives that I'm consulting. It is our responsibility to teach people how to treat us.
Yes.
I don't care if that's at home. I don't care if that is work, your sorority, your fraternity, if you allow people to treat you a certain way, you have set the precedent and they will treat you that way, right?
Yeah.
When you speak up and say that's unacceptable, they may not align with you and they may continue, but you have given them warning and now you react the way that's appropriate for you to react if that's removing yourself out the situation because you are often hear, I didn't know that was a problem. I
Yeah.
didn't know you felt that way. So to avoid someone being able to say that and stand on that, you have to let them know what's acceptable. What are your non-negotiables in the way you're treated and the way our relationship is going to manifest? And I believe that strongly that it is my responsibility to teach you. If I let you continue to call me Tyrina or
Hmm.
people call me Patrice or Patrina because they see like it has to be something connected to that Trina and I don't say anything, that's my fault. I can't be upset with anyone but myself. So we have to start with that mentality like how do I want to be treated and how do I set the tone there?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Trina. You hit on several things just even in that short response that I'm wondering if it's okay to dive into. And you mentioned your son,
Mhm.
and you also mentioned not just being a parent and raising a son, but you mentioned a black son.
Yes.
And so I am curious, what are some of the challenges? Because I know that you've done this work and this is even part of your dissertation, or maybe not part of your dissertation work. What are some of the things that you have seen as far as the experiences of Black women or women of color in
Mm.
leadership inside of today's
Oof.
world and culture?
Yeah, yeah. That's a it's a powerful question and what I would say for me, one being someone who's now seen as a me in the space, the researcher, but also lived the experience, right?
Yes.
As a black woman in leadership, it's difficult. It's challenging day in and day out. And what do I mean by that? We are up against a system that's not created for us to be successful and advance.
Hmm.
And you have to learn to navigate those things. And what that feels like is a lot of uncertainty, days of loneliness, right? You are going through tokenism, but what you go through tokenism for is often sometimes tokenism against your own, right? Like you see some
Hmm.
black women pivoting against one another because this society has created this assumption or this narration that the narrative is there's only space for one or a
One.
few,
Yep.
right? And so, there is a fight to get to the top, and people often, the crab in the barrel mentality will step on one another to get to the next. And it's the conformity. Black women are often not in a position of proximity. They
Yeah.
don't have someone who is advocating for them,
Yeah.
who is sponsoring them,
That endorsement.
that endorsement is real,
Yeah.
right? So it's the
No.
silence. You know that the person is working, but the expectation is they will work for more, work more,
Yeah.
harder for less, right? It's okay for you to do the work and produce the outputs without necessarily having the title or the proper recognition, right? So it is challenging.
Mm.
It gives, as a black woman myself in leadership, it gives the desire to be outspoken, the desire to advocate for those that can't advocate for themselves. You
Yes.
know, in my position as HR, I take a lot of pride in that because I am having the conversations with the leaders and I am pointing out, you know, the equity around things. And, I happen in an HR space to be at a wonderful organization as a consultant. When I am talking to them, I'm challenging them on the equity and the disparities and, who do you have at the table? Do you have people that other black women can look at and mirror, right? Like you normally get to that director level and there's a
Yeah.
cap,
Yep.
right? Like you don't want to see them advance past that because they didn't earn it. Well, guess what studies show? Guess what research show? Black women are the
Hmm.
most educated in the space, right? Like not
Right.
even in the leadership space, but just the most educated individuals. Yet they're the most like they're the least paid, right? They're underpaid. Their compensation does not compare to their counterparts. Whether it's a woman that's a white woman or a white man, it's just not the same. It's not set up. So what are we seeing is black women are naturally navigating to being consultants.
Mm.
And I tell people, and I talk about this implications in my research. You will work with a black woman. A black woman will advance your business. It's just how you want to work with them. Is it going to be internal or external?
Yeah.
But in order for your business to advance, you will come in contact with a black woman. They're
Hmm.
typically in the background getting the work done, right? And then you're taking the credit. We see that, right? So being in the space, it was a sensitive topic, right, to write about because it was so much that I can relate to
Yeah.
in hearing people's stories and hearing well, why do you think you deserve this? Black women have to prove themselves,
Ooh.
right? They have to prove that they're worthy when their counterparts don't have that same, like, they don't have to. It is accepted, it is handed to them. But this is funny and not funny. I remember talking to someone about my expertise, and I had a couple of questions come my way. And I got well, I don't really understand what you do. And I was like, and that's totally fine. We can talk about it. I told my mother, as a black woman in the space, I have never told someone to Google me. Never. I'm pretty. Although I'm great at what I do. I feel like I'm humble in some areas. I've never said Google me.
Yeah.
I don't know what would show up if you did Google me, right?
Right. Right. Right.
At,
I say the same thing. Right.
at that point, but this particular day, I felt so challenged in having to justify my credentials, who I am. I not only told her to Google me, I sent her the link of finding me on Google Scholar. And that was a very pivotal and proud moment because it felt like a humbling experience to her
Yeah.
on don't challenge who I am when I've given you no reason to. When only thing you known about me is being impactful and delivering results. But because it was clear and it was the indication, you get this feeling, right? Like, well, you know, people can be dismissive without using dismissive words,
Oh yeah.
right? And that's what I was getting. It was like, well, wow, why would you speak to me in that way? And after sharing that, it's been the flip. It's been so much respect. And that's what black women experience, that
Yeah.
I have to almost force you to respect me
Yeah.
versus it just naturally being given to me.
You have to credential.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 And not being a black woman, but being a black man in this space, I have found some similar experiences. And it's interesting to me because people will change the way that they interact and speak with
yes,
me after they've learned who I am.
absolutely.
And
And that's not authentic, and it doesn't make you feel
no,
good.
right? Right. I'm like, no, I remember, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm still gonna because I'm still going to be professional. I'm still going to work with you. I'm
Absolutely.
still going to do the work. But also, don't think that that goes unnoticed. And also, please note that because of the type of work that I do and you do, please note we're going to revisit this because at some
Absolutely.
point in time, I'm going to use this as a great segue into talking about what other people inside your organization or what the
Mm,
customers that you
yes,
work with might be experiencing because I
exactly.
experienced it.
Exactly.
and
This
I'm your
wasn't new. This
right.
wasn't new. This is your
Yeah.
behavior.
Right. And I'm your colleague, right? Or I'm your consultant, or I'm your, so I can only imagine if I am interviewing for a position at your
Absolutely.
job, or if I am a a customer or a client or any, so yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. And
Yes.
I just realized, Dr. Trina, we are going to
Yeah.
have to have a whole episode on just unpacking that alone, because I'm going to bring this up almost almost as an appetizer. So I'm going to ask you to
Mm.
not dive into it, but I'm going to bring this up just so we have it
Okay.
on record, so we know what we, one of the things I would like to talk to you about in some of our future conversations. But I am meeting people who are nervous and unsure how to work with Black women.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm struggling with this for a variety of different reasons, because part of me wants to say there is no 1, 2, 3,
Right.
because everyone wants to just
Give me the
give me the
formula.
note card. Yeah, just give me the note card. Tell me the 3 things to do. It's not a monolith. You know what I mean? Yes, Dr. Trina is a Black woman, and Dr. Trina is still Trina. And so
Absolutely.
you have to learn and understand that there's some basic things as far as just dignity and respect,
Yes.
but I can't tell you that this is going to work with everyone. So I struggle with that from that perspective. And then I also struggle with it because I also have chosen this field of consulting and educating. And so I struggle because I also feel a responsibility to help people with that, because I know, kind of going back to the silence piece, I've seen what happens
Yes.
when people feel unsure or nervous, they avoid.
Yes.
And Trina might be the best person on my team, but because I'm not sure exactly how to navigate that, I'm just not sure if I should bring her onto my team.
Yeah.
She's fantastic, she's awesome and everything else, but I'm never going to come forth and say exactly that. I'm going to say things like, I'm just not sure if this is the right
Right
fit.
fits. Hmm.
What I'm really saying is, I don't know how to work with her. And
Yes.
not that there's anything wrong with her, but I just don't know how to work with her,
Yes.
because we had a meeting, and in a previous meeting that we had, I saw her ask a question that, oh my gosh, I would just be
Mhm.
terrified if she asked me that question.
Yeah.
And so again, that's why I said we're not going to go
Yes.
into it, because that's such a much bigger
It
conversation. But
is.
it definitely, I would love to unpack that with you at some time. I'll say that.
I would love to join that. I'm not going to dive in there and unpack it, but I will say one key thing that popped into my mind with that statement is one of the things I pride myself for is asking what makes you comfortable and what works for you and what doesn't work for you,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that that helps create the structure of a relationship. And the one thing I ask people that seems so like remedial is I
Hmm.
ask them, what is your pet peeve and your biggest concern?
Hmm.
And the reason is because now I know how to work with you. I know your trigger points. So many times we work with people, we don't know anything about them, and we want to think that we can work with them the way that we worked with everyone else in the past.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I really, again, that's why I say I think it's an important topic, and I put this out there because I always try to get people to this place. I shouldn't say I always try to get, but I often try to get people to this place of understanding one of our both end lenses that we created, which is responsible, not my fault. And that is recognizing that
Yeah.
the fact that that's where some people are is not their fault, because the way that the systems have been designed, the reason why you feel uncomfortable is because organizational culture has been so normed around
Yes.
something else. So
Yeah.
when you see someone who is not operating in the way that you think, or the way that you have been programmed to work with people in, you don't know what to do. The other thing around that is also, going back to the system piece, is the way that the system has been designed. You probably haven't had to work with a lot of Black women in,
Absolutely.
in these spaces. So let's put the blame, shame, and guilt to the side for a moment. And let's also recognize that though it's not your fault that you find yourself in this place of ignorance, and I don't mean ignorance as
Right.
a disrespectful term. I mean, it's
No.
just lack
Lack
of
of knowledge.
information. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not your fault. And we don't get to throw our hands up in the air and go, oh, no, we also have a responsibility
Yes,
to
we
figure
do.
it out. We have a
Yes.
responsibility to do our work, to learn, to educate ourselves, and to allow ourselves to be in the uncomfortable positions of
Mhm.
figuring those things out. So yeah, I definitely want to unpack that. And we're coming up on time, as I knew this was going to happen to us, Dr. Spear. Knew this was going to happen to us. And there's so many different places that I still want to go and the questions I want to ask, but I know we have to begin to wrap this episode up.
Yes.
But giving you all a preview for maybe our next episode with Dr. Trina, because one of the things I think is really important, we started to go there a little bit, but I think many people will be able to relate to this. And that is the balance of being an executive and being a leader and also being a parent. And what does that mean? What does that look like? And how does one begin to navigate that and to let go of some of the guilt that sometimes historically have been placed upon people for being the best parent that they can possibly be? We want you to be the best employee. And and we want you to be a good parent, you know what I mean? But we want you to be the best employee you can be. We just don't want you to also be the best parent that you can be, because we think that those two things are in conflict. So again, putting it on record so that we can come
Yes.
back to pick it up. So here's
Yes.
where we'll close. This is my last question that I always end with. That is, if you had just one piece of advice that you would leave to a leader, and not saying that this is the most important piece, because I know that there's probably at least 50 things that you could leave that you have
Yeah.
learned over time. But if you had to just pick one right now off the top of your head, what would be one thing that you would leave with the leader as far as work that they can continue to do to
Ooh.
grow and advance themselves, their impact, or the culture? So it could be, again, directed towards them as far as their own personal development and self-care. It could be about advancing a culture organization, could be any of that. What's one thing that you might leave them with?
Man, my that's I have like thousands of thoughts with this one, right? But the but the one thing I would say, is leaders need to think about courage. Um,
Mm,
and leadership requires courage, not silent complacency or, I say courage over conformity. Um, I would say that you don't have to be a polished leader, right? But you have to be an honest one that advocates and do what's right. That's what leaders need.
yeah.
They need to practice the art of courage over conformity.
I love the fact that we are so closely aligned, and that every conversation I have with you, it is also growth for me. And so I appreciate that, because that's not always the case, when you're talking with people. So I like the fact that we are closely aligned in thoughts and practices, but that I also learn and grow every conversation I have with you. And just even that piece about courage. Yeah. I mean, that is it reminds me, I did a keynote years ago, and the topic was the courage to lead.
Mm,
Because, and I talked about it from that space, that people talk about leadership courage and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about, do you have the courage to lead, and to lead in a way that is authentic, that is transparent? Like,
yes,
that takes courage to lead in a way that is just and
yes,
equitable. It takes courage, because we haven't promoted that type of leader historically. We've promoted leaders that were nice, that were equal, right? Meaning,
that
hey,
were
you,
taskers.
yeah, right. You
Follow the
told Dr. Trina no, so you told me no. You're a great leader because at least you're
yes.
fair. Where true leadership courage is, I have to assess Trina's situation
Mhm.
and assess your situation. And even though I told Trina no, do I have the courage to tell you yes, because your situation is
Mhm.
different?
Yes.
And so we got at least several more several more conversations we're going to have, Dr. Trina. But in wrapping up, I want to
Yes.
just thank you so much for bringing your knowledge, your insights to our community today for this wonderful conversation.
Yes.
Once again, folks, this is Dr. Trina Peterson-Garcia. You can find Dr. Trina on LinkedIn. Does great work in so many different ways and facets, as you've heard, as a practitioner, as a as an academic and researcher, and also, again, as a coach and consultant. So if you are looking for support on this journey, as we all need, because leadership can be extremely lonely, again, please check her out. Dr. Trina, thank you
Absolutely.
so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.